Softbank buys ARM for $32 billion, thereby co-opting, cornering, completely owning the entire Internet of Things market for now and ever, amen. Right, Stacey?
Sort of.
Oh. What do you think?
I think this is really a crazy deal. I'm glad we're talking about it because...
Well, I see the note that says Stacey wants to talk about this.
Please. Okay, so this is a surprising thing.
Yeah.
SoftBank, they actually have SoftBank, the carrier in Japan. They also own Sprint. And I got to say that it was so crazy because no one thought ARM would go anywhere because they're
so British. They're so British.
They're very British. You can tell looking at Simon. I mean, look at that guy. Yeah. He's staid.
He also said, "This is a dark day for the British Empire."
That was the co-founder of. That was another co-founder.
Oh, it was another guy. Okay.
It was the guy who founded it.
Yeah.
Not Simon. That would be terrible if your CEO said that.
Oh, that's right. He's all for it.
He did. He helped do the deal.
Yeah.
But he says in that video, actually, that the only reason they did it is because they paid so darn much for it.
It's a lot of money. That's a chunk of change.
It's the second largest chip deal after Broadcom Avago.
Wow.
So that was $37 billion. So this is huge. SoftBank gets basically 95, almost every single mobile phone has an ARM-based processor inside. And ARM doesn't sell chips. They sell the design. They sell an instruction set, basically. They sell the design for the chip. They own the mobile ecosystem. They are getting into microprocessors, which is the Internet of Things. But they do actually have competition there. And then they're also getting into servers. So they don't screw it up. There's growth potential for them.
Oh, I think this is a deal. I know it's a lot of money, but I think and SoftBank, by the way, I used to work for Sun because he owns Ziff Davis briefly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think partly it's hard to understand SoftBank. It's more like Berkshire Hathaway than it's like
it's a private equity. This isn't a strategic deal for them.
It's an investment.
Is like, we have a lot of money. Let's put it someplace that's going to grow.
Yeah. And so they're not going to move ARM to Japan. They're going to let the same people run it. They want to own the proceeds. I think it's a great deal. They're going to own Internet of Things. They're going to own the future.
They will. Yes, they could own the future architecture for just about everything. Intel
has taken a run at ARM and failed. In fact, ARM is basically putting Intel out of business in a way.
It is, and it's encroaching on their territory.
Servers.
Their high-margin server territory. Now, whether or not that'll actually happen, I don't know. They're also both going after the cellular equipment market with that used to have ASICs, specially designed chips. The cellular equipment market is now, ARM's got stuff there, and so does Intel. So that could be interesting, too. And that's related to some of SoftBank's own interests.
Intel or Apple, somebody was rumored to be going after ARM. The problem is because it could really, and then in this article on Medium that you linked to, did you write it?
Oh, yeah, I wrote that one.
Well, there you go. That would be why you linked to it.
I was going to link to something else.
No, this is good. You point out that other chip companies really, because of anti-competitive issues, couldn't buy it. It had to be somebody like SoftBank.
Yeah, and a long time ago, I thought Google might buy it, but then Amazon and all of these other data center companies that operate big data centers took ARM licenses. So then someone like Google couldn't really buy it.
I think this is a very exciting move.
I couldn't. If they put the money into ARM, I think it will be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and Apple, some question about Apple because Apple uses ARM, has licensed the ARM architecture to create the iPhone and iPad chips, but I think they have a perpetual license to this.
There's two types of licenses. There's an architecture.
Right.
Yeah, which means you can futz with the design as long as you don't.
That's what Apple has, right?
And that's what Apple has.
Yeah.
And Samsung and Qualcomm and all those guys. And then there's just the straight up, we're just going to take this as it is and use it.
Like Raspberry Pi.
You can futz as long as you don't what, Stacey?
You can't futz with if you don't have an architectural license, you can't futz with it.
Oh, okay. I thought you were starting to say something.
So you either buy their design outright, which is cheaper, or you buy the right to use the design as a basis for your own designs, which is what Apple does.
Right.
It's kind of like Android.
Yeah. Well, except it's not. There's no free tier, no free ARM tier.
There's no free tier, and they make sure there are limits to how you couldn't like fork the ARM instruction set.
Oh, that's interesting. So Apple can't abandon ARM and just say, "Hey, we got it from here."
They can't. They could totally design their own chips.
Or they'd have to start from scratch.
But they couldn't use the ARM architecture.
Right.
But they've done. I mean, ARM came about as Apple working with a company called Acorn Technology.
Right.
So for the Newton.
Well, and Acorn did the BBC computer, I think. So this is really interesting. And by the way, it powers something that is in some ways spiritually the successor to the BBC computer, which is the Raspberry Pi.
Yes.
And that's also powered by ARM. And yes, Apple put a lot of money into ARM for the Newton, one of the first mobile devices, and then sold its stake in ARM, but continued to use ARM designs. Well, didn't continue to. They restarted, I guess, with the iPhone and then later the iPad.
ARM it's such a quintessentially British company. Like nobody knows about it. They don't talk about it. You know, you get Intel. Actually, Brian Krzanich isn't like this, but previous Intel CEOs were all like, you know, Intel inside, and they were so out there, kind of like Jensen is for NVIDIA. But ARMs, they've never been that way. They've just British.
Yeah. That's good. This is a dark day for the British Empire.